to another edition of the Durham Bulls Podcast. I'm Patrick Keenis, the broadcaster for the Bulls. If it's the first time you're joining us, we thank you. Please subscribe if you can. It helps the pod out a lot. You can do that on Apple and on Spotify for the audio versions. And then on our YouTube channel. The Bulls have a YouTube channel. Go to Durham Bulls TV, subscribe there, and you'll get notifications when all of these new episodes of the podcast drops. And it's been such a great experience for me over the last couple of months to start up this podcast and celebrate all of the people who make the Durham Bulls what they are, whether it's all-star players, Hall of Fame managers, critical members of the Durham Bulls front office of Tampa Bay Rays. And our special guest of this week is a guy who's actually working behind the scenes on the podcast, but he deserves to be in the spotlight for all of the things that he has done for almost 2 decades for the Durham Bulls. And it's the on-field announcer for the Bulls and my good friend, Jatovi McDuffie. Hi, Jatovi.
How's it going, Patrick?
Man, it's so great to have you on. And first off, the fans may not know, but for all of the diligent followers we have of this pod, all of the lipstick, the post-production work, all of the graphics, all of the things that really takes it to a different level, you're responsible for. So first off, I thank you for investing your time on this podcast to help take it to another level. And you're so skilled in all these technical pieces. So I just want to make sure I'm on the record thanking you for all the things you do for the Bulls and specifically for us and for this podcast.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I thank you guys for letting me have fun, tinkering and playing. I mean, it's definitely a lot of fun. And, always trying to challenge myself. So this was a big challenge that I figured, it'd be fun to do.
So let's start at the beginning, because this is my 12th season for the Durham Bulls. You have outpaced me by many, many years. I think, as a matter of fact, if I do the math right, you may have been an employee longer with the Bulls than Tony Rigsby, who's in his 19th season as the public address announcer. When did you start, and how did you get the job?
So I started, before Tony, it was Bill Law. Bill Law is who I started off with. They actually named the press box after Bill Law because Bill had been there for, decades. He was in the Bull Durham movie and everything else. But I got started years ago. The individual that ran the department, or the promotions marketing department, was a guy by the name of Matt DeMargell. And a buddy of mine, who I was playing intramural basketball with. He and I named Chip Hutchinson. He used to work at the Bulls years ago, and Chip was working in the sales department. Mm-hmm. And Chip and I were on the court one time, and he said, "Hey, at the Bulls, we have an audition set up for an on-field announcer. You should come out. It'll be fun. I think you'd do good." I was like, "Okay." And it went one ear and out the other, because I was like, I'll think about it. At the time, I was in the middle of doing improv comedy and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then a buddy of mine named Jason Matthews, he used to work at Fox 50, which used to be where the Avalera building is. And he also told me the same exact thing. And then when he told me when he said it, I was like, okay, then that's 2 people now. There's something behind it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try out. I ended up trying out, and when I got the phone call from Matt told me, "Hey, you are the backup to the backup. We really liked you, and but we have this gentleman who's a radio host, and this other gentleman who's this." So I was like, okay. Then I again, it went in one ear out the other. So I went back to what I was doing. And the next week, which was about a month or so before the actual season started, Matt called me again and said, "Okay, well, now you're the backup because one of the other gentlemen backed out." A week later, Matt then said, "Okay, can you start in about a week? Because now we don't have anybody. And so you're the backup to the backup. You're now the starter. So I need you in there." So then I was like, okay. And so for the first 40 games of that season, I was thrown to the wolves, didn't know anything. Luckily, I had the improv background, which helped out tremendously. And it's been then the original guy, what was his name? Kevin Jenkins. Kevin Jenkins was the first on-field announcer, and that was the one that Matt DeMargell really enjoyed because he was there for a few years, I think 3 or 4 years before I was there. And Kevin then came back from some unknown area and he took back over the original position. Then I went back to the backup. But then the next year, Kevin was supposed to be gone, supposedly some McDonald's commercial, but then didn't have the McDonald's commercial, then came back and then ended up disappearing again, went down with the chancellor of FAMU, or went down with the chancellor of St. Aug to FAMU. And then it was just me for the rest of the time from that point on. Although I did have to audition again, which was weird, but I was like, okay.
You had to audition for your own job again.
Yes. Yeah. Matt made me audition for the job a second time. I was like, okay.
So I already have a lot of offshoots here.
Again.
Wait a second. So first up, take me to, before I even get to what the elements of the audition were, did the way that you kind of framed Matt mentioning something and then the guy from Fox 50 mentioning something, do you feel like this was a concerted effort to get you to audition, or do you feel like these were two independent thoughts, both individually thinking of you, and there was no scheme or plan to try and get Jatovi to audition?
I think it just so happened to be a coincidence, because I know while Fox 50 and the Bulls are related, and especially at that time being right there at the ballpark at Diamond View 1 and everything, they are related. Jason Matthews didn't know Chip Hutchinson.
Okay.
And they didn't run in the same circles. So I think it just so happened to be a coincidence. And I just decided, okay, well, because it feels like a coincidence, I'm just going to run with it and see what happens.
So take me to the day you've now agreed or decided internally to audition for this job. I guess my first question is, are you replacing somebody, or is this a brand new role?
So I was supposed to be replacing Kevin Jenkins.
Okay.
Because Kevin that year, again, he and Matt DeMargell, they had some connection, because that was Matt's, I think, first on-field announcer, and Kevin had been there for the past few years.
Okay.
And Kevin always had something in the cooker where he was trying to, go to a different, a different space, maybe a McDonald's commercial or some other commercial that popped up, or audition for this or audition for that. And so Kevin had evidently positioned himself to leave the year that I was coming in. And he was gone for the first 40 games. And I remember it plain as day when we were on the third floor before the actual redesign, because on that third floor, when you got off the elevators, you were in an open space, and then you had to walk forward. The suites were there, but there was no PNC club. The thing in the middle used to be the actual press box. Right. Tony used to sit there, Bill Law used to sit there, and you would look directly behind home plate. But I remember Matt pulling me outside there was one game, it was a Sunday game, and he had pulled me outside and he said, well, it looks like Kevin gave me a call and Kevin's coming back. And we're just going to go ahead and since Kevin's been here and, we're going to give him the job, you're going to go back to being the backup. And this was after, I'd been there for about 40 games now, thrown to the wolves and all. They never gave me a script. It never gave me any heads up on what to do.
Okay.
So basically, again, the improv background helped me out tremendously because everything was shooting from the hip from the start.
You've been there about a half season now. They want to change or at least change your role. How did that land with you?
I decided to play the game because, I could have let it upset me to the point where I'm like, hey, this isn't what I want.
Mhm.
You just treat me poorly. Let me walk because this is just ridiculous. That was in me. I mean, it did bubble up, but I, I'm not, I figured, okay, I'm just going to play the game and see where this takes me. I can either hold on to this opportunity that could lead me to something else, or I can blow it up and just walk away
Mhm.
and go back to something that you know, doing improv comedy and maybe push from there.
Mhm.
But I figured, I'm just going to hold on to it, push through. I'll play the backup role. I'll see what goes on from there. And I guess luckily I did that and bit my tongue and actually played the game
Mhm.
because I guess the from listening to my parents, listening to grandparents and all the old wisdom that you get from,
Mhm.
elders to other individuals around your circle, um, you can either let that anger control and navigate your world, or you can decide, hey, what could be the best course of action and roll the
Yeah.
dice.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
We're glad he did. We're glad he
Me
did because
too.
so I still want to get details on what was the audition like, because I years ago when the Carolina Hurricanes were looking for a new public address announcer and I was still working doubly with the Mudcats, they reached out to me. So I
Mhm.
did an audition at then the RBC Center before it was renamed to the PNC Arena, but it was a bit intimidating because you're in the arena. Nobody's there. I mean, it's a cavernous arena, and they're having you do readers. They're having you introduce, the Canes players with all the right dialects and the pronunciations, and you don't know who's listening. You had the owner and the GM and the VP of communications all somewhere in the arena. You couldn't see them because it's so big, but they at least had things scheduled for me to do. But with this job, when you were auditioning for either the third string role or the QB1 role, did they just basically give you a mic and say, perform for us? How would you fill this role?
In a roundabout way, they did say, dance for me, dance for me. So that really was it. They gave us a sheet of paper. On that sheet of paper, it gave you 4 different games. And you had to choose, one or two of the games, and you went out there and auditioned. And it was for the Bulls, the first time, yes, you walked out, empty field,
Mhm.
people in the stands watching. Well, nobody in the stands really, just
Okay.
the front office staff.
Sure.
And then you tried stuff. Well, that was the second time mainly, but the first time, yeah, there were, I think Mike Burling, I think, was out there.
Mhm.
There were a few others that were in the stadium at that time. The first time I did it. The second time, after I had the job for a few years, and Matt was like, "Oh, well, we'll do an audition again." And I'm the backup again. But it was the same routine, which made me
Mhm.
laugh. Oh, the guy left. It's your turn again. Um, so that second time, it was a similar thing, but there were more people in the stadium.
Mm, mm,
And I remember, oddly enough, the audition that you're talking about at the Carolina Hurricanes,
yeah.
I remember I went out for an audition for the Carolina Hurricanes around the same time I did the second audition for the
Oh,
Bulls,
wow.
because it was again that whole, okay, well, I'm now in this on-field announcer thing. They had the on-ice announcer or
Mhm.
the in-stadium announcer that
Mhm.
was going on at that time, and I said I'm gonna try out for it. Unbeknownst to me, when I go to the audition, Kevin Jenkins is there as well.
Oh, gosh.
It was weird, but evidently Ron the ref that was one of the years that Ron the ref was leaving. So they needed somebody to come in
Mm,
and do
mm,
the
mm.
in-game stuff.
Well,
But it
tell
ended
me,
up
tell me what the
being
feeling was like, because you're an improv guy.
Mhm.
You're used to like an immediate reaction, right? I mean, you're on stage, you're in front of a crowd. You can tell with what you're doing and your comments and your observations if it's landing or not, right?
Mhm.
But you're now in an empty arena, an empty stadium, and maybe half a dozen people sprawled around. you can't see or you can't tell or feel if what you're doing is working. So what was that whole experience like? Because you're used to that immediate gratification and knowledge.
So for me, it was a similar response because again, it all goes back to what my experiences were outside of the stadium. Because, for example, I remember one when I was going through the whole improv training and doing like matinee shows and night
Mhm.
shows and stuff like that. Before I even got to do the Bulls audition, also I had done the Ren Fair stuff, where Ren Fair stuff
Mm.
was another different improv arena, which another thing that helped me out tremendously. I also did some. It was called inspirational theater. A buddy of mine that I was doing
Mhm.
theater with before even improv, but that was dealing with rest homes and those with
Mm.
different mental conditions, aging conditions that people deal with. So, in a in a sense, like one of the shows that we did for a matinee, there were two people there, and one of them actually was mentally disabled. So that you get to appreciate the I guess not only the chance to entertain even just
Mhm.
one person, but you get the chance to appreciate the things that you can do and bring to the table by trying new things to push you in different ways.
Mm.
So while there for that experience, I literally harken back to, hey, I'm in the room with this individual, and I want to make sure that
Mm.
even that individual that had that mental disability was able to enjoy the show.
Mm.
And that was running through
Mm.
my mind as, hey,
Mm.
I want to talk to this
Yeah.
person,
Mm.
even though they're not even there. I want
Mm.
to, same thing with the Ren Fair. I knew half the time in the Ren Fair, I still had to play the same character, and I'm sitting in an area where nobody has crossed for the whole time. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to entertain myself. So, again, it's harkening back to those
Yeah.
experiences. I'm like, okay, while I'm doing this audition, nobody's in the stadium.
Mhm.
And I see, okay, well, there's a GM there. There's John Bishop, I think, was even there at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
So I see these individuals, and I can't, that one-on-one. No, it's just I'm trying to one entertain myself,
Mhm.
remember that there could be somebody in the stadium that, hey, I may not even see. So I'm gonna try and entertain them because
Mhm.
mentally I'm visualizing them. So I'm still gonna try and
Mhm.
reach them, even though they're not there, but
Mm.
only in my mind. So yeah, it was an interesting experience.
Mhm.
But again, it was just one of those that I tried to entertain myself and those that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought were there, but even though they weren't there.
Yeah. So clearly, this is rooted somewhere in your childhood because I remember the first time that I started mock broadcasting games, and I was 7 or 8, and I was playing a board game. It was a dice game called Stratomatic Baseball. That's really where I started. I started playing the game in my bedroom, tucked a towel underneath the crack of the door that was shut, so the announcing part of it that I was just kind of creating in my head wouldn't, waft through the entire house, and my parents wouldn't commit an 8-year-old to an insane asylum. So, but that was really the first time that I did, 1% of what I'm doing now for a career. But what memories do you have? Do you remember the first time that you performed? I mean, was this in elementary school? Was it a play? What got you to the point? Because that's a big thing when you're a young kid, getting up and performing in front of family, friends, people you don't know, with risk of maybe making a fool out of yourself, right?
So there were the one thing was, I was always that odd kid. Um Still am. Big nerd. I'm the third child.
Okay.
Everybody looked at my older brother because I have an older brother. I have an older sister, so you got the first daughter, and then
Mhm.
there's me, and then there's the baby girl. So I
Uh,
always felt, okay, well, I've got to, in a way,
mm,
not think about myself, but more so enjoy the creativity and craziness because that's, I guess, one piece of that puzzle, because I would do crazy things. I would honestly,
Mm.
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I would add on bologna. I would add on cheese nips, whole bunch of the craziness, just to get the extra attention, because I'm like,
There you
hey,
go. There you go.
my little sister's getting it. Oh, my older brother's getting it. Oh, everybody else. So I'm,
Mm.
you know, so in my mind, again,
Mm.
it's that left out. Okay, I'm gonna do my
Yeah.
own thing. And then there's another piece where, yeah, there's that creativity of, I always had crazy ideas and always played crazy scenes in my mind, because it's just fun to really live vicariously, not only through what you see on TV, through the movies and the shows,
Mhm.
but individuals that you talk to, and even the toys. For
Mm.
example, this is one of those pieces of the puzzle. Um, for example, I used to love Transformers. First movie I cried at was Transformers the movie, because
Mm.
Optimus
Mm.
Prime wasn't supposed to die. It was supposed to be Megatron. He wasn't supposed to go turn into Galvatron after meeting Unicron. It was Optimus Prime was supposed to live, and he died, and I cried. But I think it was that year I got a few Transformers for Christmas. That was back in 96, I think it was. Oh no, 94. Was it 94 when that came out? Or 84? One of them. But yeah, I got Transform. No, it was 84. Got Transformers as toys. My sister got Barbies. So of course, my crazy self decides, okay, because I'm entertaining myself and trying to come up with these crazy scenes and stuff.
Mm.
So I this is the one year I ended up breaking one of my Transformers, because it ended up where the Transformer went on a date with a Barbie.
Oh
And
gosh.
and it turned out that Barbie was dating the other Transformer. And so the two Transformers got into a fight. Transformers were Autobots. One of them was the jet, and another one was one of the cars. But the car that they drove was a slipper. So yeah, it was just craziness. So those things and those plays and those scenes and those
Mm.
fun things is a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But then also, I guess one of the big things that got me out of my shell, and I have
Hmm.
to thank my father for it. So I started running track when I was 5 years
Mm.
old.
Mm.
We started out with the Durham Striders. At the age of 11, we switched over and created our own team, or my father and some of the other individuals created their own club called the Durham Youth Club. One of the functions that we did all the time is a function at New Red Mountain Baptist Church. And we would do a family function. We would do, the track get-togethers and stuff. But my father always forced me to speak
Mm.
at the Durham Youth Club. At the Durham Youth Club, all their events, every time we did those, my father forced me to speak. He was always the loudest running. He was the loudest one at every track meet, but he always forced me to speak. He always forced me to, I won't say forced, I will say pushed me forward to speak and pushed me forward to talk
Mm.
in at the Durham Striders events as
Mm.
well. And I think that is one thing that tying everything together, the imagination and the having fun and trying to get noticed,
Hmm.
because I feel being that third child, being unnoticed
Yeah. Yeah.
because of my father. I think that tied it all together and just gave me the gumption to go ahead and, okay, I can make a fool of myself. I'm having
Hmm.
fun doing
So you mentioned improv several times, and I'm a big fan of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
it. Hmm.
The older version and even the newer version now, and Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles and Wayne Brady. I mean, they're all brilliant at their craft, and um, I'm sure you have some type of inspirations, right? Because that is a craft, that is a really challenging um, medium that I could not do. I can't think on my feet that way and entertain people. I do that on the air for sports, but that's a different animal versus on stage when people are expecting funny. So I mean, did you have some inspirations in comedy or improv that kind of drove you to your style?
So yes and no. Yes, in the sense, because yeah, like favorite comedians from Richard
Mhm.
Pryor to
Mhm.
Robin Williams. I mean, individuals, Robin Harris. I mean, just tons of good individuals that were out there. Eddie Murphy
Mhm.
Raw, still one of the classics.
Yeah.
Bought the box set of Richard Pryor. Eddie Griffin had his first album was really great. The other ones started copying off the first one, but then Undercover Brother was one of the greatest movies. Uh, but so I mean, I had more inspiration than I want to be this guy.
Mhm.
And I guess that all comes back to, of course, my father pushing me out there, being the third child. I always wanted
Mhm.
to be me. I wanted people to recognize me because I guess in that third child position, it's, hey, nobody really knows you. So at some point, I want, hey, what about me? So that's why I guess the idolized part never really set in for me. And that's why, meeting players and stuff like that never
Mhm.
really puts me on this, oh, I can't believe, because I see that individual just like I see
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, hey, I just, hey, what are you doing today? What do you want to eat? So, uh, to inspiration is there from those great comedians that were all out there. In terms of, like, the reason I chose improv over even stand up, because I try to do some stand up.
Mhm.
Still try on occasion. Um, the main reason I went improv was, I guess, it is that thinking on your feet. And Whose Line Is It Anyway? I've watched it, tons of times.
Mhm.
But these short form comedy that we did at Comedy Sports, which then changed to Comedy Works, um, was very similar to Whose Line Is It Anyway? So I did watch some of Whose Line just to pick up, okay, timings,
Yeah.
but also doing practices and stuff. And I still do it now. Um, or whenever we did some of the trainings for some of the games that we'll do on the field, it's not that I'll try and laugh about the game. I want to make sure that I'm analyzing and seeing every single thing that potentially could happen, because it goes back to, again,
Mhm.
I want the individual who may not be able to understand to still enjoy, who may not be able to follow to still have fun. So that even tracked through me doing improv. It's because you realize that it's not about saying the funny. The funny's going to happen. It's just, you just have to play your role. If you're the individual dominating the stage and doing your thing, um, then keep doing that, but add people in and make sure
Mhm.
everybody's involved. If there's somebody doing that, support them and make sure that they're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that you're not trying to steal the focus to be greedy. No, the funny's gonna happen. You don't focus on that. You focus on, let's make sure everybody's entertained and work together as
Mhm.
best as possible.
So there's a payoff for anything that anybody does, and there's a payoff in the job that I do. Well, what's the payoff for Jatovi in the on field, on ice, in arena work that you do with the Hurricanes and the Durham Bulls?
Um, Honestly, and it sounds so cliche, but honestly, the people I meet,
Mm.
and that is the biggest thing. Like, running across some of the players and meeting the wives and meeting the families.
Mm.
Uh, like, Reeth's family is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
those guys. And it's good to hear, what each one of the kids are doing, because I that you being with the Bulls for now 20 years, it's like you
Mhm.
see all these kids grow up.
Yeah.
There's a young lady, well, she's a young lady now. When I met her, she was maybe about 5,
Mhm.
but I remember we did an interview in the dugout with her at the age of 5. We were trying something new, and um, she came back maybe a few months later and drew me a picture of me on the microphone. Those are the things that are the payoff for me. because again, being on the field, being in front of everybody and stuff like that is cool and all. That's not a payoff. That's fun,
Mhm.
but the payoff is, having a little kid draw me a picture.
Yeah.
I've got different items here that in the house that people have
Yeah.
given me. That's
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm.
That's a payoff.
Yeah.
I've got items. I got a 3D printer back here. There's a young lady who actually just graduated. She is special needs. She sits in section 118. Her name's Deanna. Her father came out and sang the national anthem. She had her birthday about a month ago. And I still have a 3D printed birthday gift that I
Oh.
told her I was going to give her, but I didn't remember to take it out
Yeah.
when the last time she came out to the game.
Yeah.
That's a payoff to me because
Mhm.
you learn these individuals. And again, it goes back to you get to live vicariously through them. You get to
Mhm.
learn about their lives.
Mhm.
And that adds to my life and what I can say on the field and
Yeah.
what I can do on the field. Because that's the cool part.
Yeah.
Stories.
Yeah.
Anybody, I can be replaced tomorrow and somebody can go out on the field and say, hey, we're shooting termites in the trousers. But what I don't ever want to be replaced on is, hey, let's go to lunch over at
Mhm.
Press right outside of the ballpark and get some tater tots. Let's have fun over there. That's the cool part.
Mhm. What do your kids think of your work? Do they think
Uh
that is some kind of like, again, on
so
field in arena screwball, like with all this energy and I mean, or are they like, that's the coolest job ever?
so one, my 10-year-old son, well, he's 11 now. So Bennett, he he has a chromosome deletion, so he's special needs. So he has a mental delay, so he doesn't really understand it as much. But he's still party animal, wild little crazy little boy. Layla, who
Yeah.
is 14 now,
Mhm.
she used to think it was super cool, but now you're embarrassing me, and that's my goal. So yeah, so to her friends, she thinks
Mhm.
they think it's amazing. Um, and I think she likes that. But then I'm still dad, so
Mhm. Mhm.
dad's never cool. It's just
Don't
one
tell
of
me
those
that.
things.
I think I'm the
You
coolest
gotta
dad right
learn.
now, but he get in cage too. He'll grow out of it, right?
Watch. Mom is gonna be your child's best friend, and they're gonna watch TV all the time, and you're gonna be stuck. Okay,
You're breaking my heart.
let me go ahead and clean up downstairs. I'll watch
You're
some later.
you're breaking my heart. Um, so, I mean, I guess, but before I get to that question, let me ask you this. So, I sometimes I'm going through a drive-through and I'm ordering a burger or Bojangles or KFC, and there might be a Bulls fan, TV radio fan, who I pull up to the window and they'll recognize me or my voice
Mhm.
from the Bulls or from some of the national stuff that I've done or whatever it is. I asked Tony Rigsby the other day when we had him on the podcast. I'm like, you have such a distinctive voice, booms. I mean, it's more powerful than a sonic boom. You've been in the triangle radio game for 5 decades. How often do you get recognized? He said it doesn't happen all that often, but he does. You are one of the faces of the Durham Bulls, and you're certainly one of the faces of the Carolina Hurricanes out amongst hundreds of thousands of people over the course of a full baseball or hockey season. So do you get recognized by how you look or how your voice is? Do people approach you? What is that interaction like? And do you enjoy that part of the work?
I mean, both. Some recognize me for my voice. Some recognize me, just seeing me in the grocery store.
Mhm.
I mean, I enjoy it because again, it goes back to meeting people.
Mhm.
So I'll chit chat with if anybody pops up in the store. Hey, yeah, how's it going? Let's talk. Hey, this is Bennett. That's Layla right there. We're going through the grocery store. So it's just it's neat,
Mhm.
and it's different. And that truthfully didn't start really happening on a very regular basis until the past maybe uh, 4 or 5 years,
Mm.
truthfully. Um, Going into COVID,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I would get recognized here and there, even a little bit, once or twice. Um, well, more than once or twice. But now I mean, it's a regular thing where
Mhm.
somebody may recognize me or somebody
Mhm.
may see me or hear me saying something and,
Mhm.
hey, aren't you that guy? And what's
Mhm.
fun is when it happens when I'm at the Canes and somebody says, hey, don't you work for the, and
Yeah.
then I'm at the Bulls, hey, don't you work for the,
Yeah.
that's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it has picked up over the past
Yeah.
definitely 4 to 5 years, especially
Mhm.
since I did pick up the Canes job.
Yeah, I asked this to Tony, and I get asked this a lot as well. Like, is there a next? I mean, what's I asked Tony a bucket list. Like, what things would he really like to do in his career that he doesn't has not done yet? He would like to moderate a political debate. He's big into politics. He would like to call a major league game as a PA broadcaster. Is there a next in terms of what you're doing, or are you content with all that you've done in the triangle and become such a billboard of triangle athletics as far as the entertainment in front of fans in the NHL and AAA baseball?
So oddly enough, I did get an email from the what is it, cricket, the Major League Cricket that's coming through.
Mhm, mhm.
I get to help out there.
Yeah, yay.
So that's gonna be a lot of fun. But it would be fun to do boxing. It'd be fun to do, I mean,
Mhm,
anything. I like experiences because every experience you meet different people. So
mhm,
yeah,
mhm,
a new next in terms of the sporting world. Yeah, I mean, it definitely be fun to do like a
mhm,
boxing match. It'd definitely be fun to,
mhm.
I mean, I'm with Tony. It'd be fun to do a political
Yeah,
debate, just
yeah,
to
yeah.
sit there and listen to how it goes back and
Mhm.
forth and try and moderate it.
I'm
Those would
with you.
be.
Pull up a third chair. I'm right with you on that. I'll be the fact checker.
I
They'll
would
they'll
love
keep me
to.
busy.
Yeah, that would be really busy. I would love to do like you and do the Olympics. That would be
Yeah, yeah,
so much fun. Not
yeah.
only
LA,
to
LA
and
28.
I would love it. And
Mhm,
there my sister actually she is still going to be out in LA at the
mhm,
time when the Olympics happen,
mhm.
which would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah,
I can sneak out there,
yeah.
but it'd be kind of tough because
Mhm.
everybody will be out there. Uh, but yeah, doing the Olympics would be a lot
Mhm,
of fun.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, in that realm, I guess
mhm,
I guess the door is wide open to anything that comes in that realm.
mhm.
Leaving a legacy, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Um, that's and I spoken with you about it before, the whole arena situation, trying to do
Mhm,
that into downtown Durham
mhm,
because that's a whole
mhm,
educational thing where I'm trying to
mhm.
push to change the community mindset.
Yeah,
Um, so that's a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
legacy thing that I'm trying to push for than that.
And you've spent a number of years and a lot of time and energy and money to try and bring this to fruition. Are are you surprised how long it has taken, for not for the project to come together, but for the community and business members to understand what it's all about? Because I would think all of those things would make it no sale is ever easy. No big project like this is ever easy, but I would think that would generate the momentum that this needs because you're doing it for the kids of the community.
Um, so honestly, a little bit of yes and a little bit of no.
Mhm,
Because years ago, so the goal is essentially, and this is what I tell everybody. So essentially, the goal is to build an esports arena in downtown Durham and have that have all the bells and whistles like the Bull Stadium or the K or the
mhm,
PNC Arena. Just have beautiful thing, and then allow kids and people to play in there for free. Only if they go through a partnered community organization. So they have to join something in the community to go through. That concept, while a new concept, there I can see where in this area it is still a confusing concept on one end because of the stigma and the stereotype around video gaming. The other part is easy to understand. Hey, we're helping people by joining community organizations or getting them to join community organizations as a recruiting tool. And then, when starting this project like 10, 15 years ago, doing all the research, about 10 years ago, trying to get everything going, getting even the Bulls on board and Capital Broadcasting to understand what gaming is. It's a tough thing for people not within the gaming world to understand the power behind it. And you can understand, you can hear numbers all day, but the numbers themselves don't speak to what the power is there. Because, everybody knows that, okay, the music and movie industry combined doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of what gaming is. You're looking at $200 billion industry compared to music and movie industry together is still, not even 100 billion plus, or maybe even $150 billion industry. But you're not scratching the surface of this $200 billion juggernaut that's growing every single year. So getting people to hear numbers and hear money, that's what people hear in this area. I know I went to a party years ago that Epic was putting on board, and they talked about how this area or the East Coast was a few years behind in terms of the idea around gaming. So I understood the stigma. And then on top of that, you have traditional sports like baseball, basketball, football, everything dominating this area. Thinking about something conceptual like a video game tournament or a video game thing is still a young individual's market. It's not an older, diehard, hey, give me my baseball, give me my hockey, give me my. No, it's still dominated by the younger market. And so getting people to understand, especially those that have that power and that control, to visualize, okay, this is powerful right now. This is growing. That was an interesting process. But getting them to understand, okay, well, we can get people to join community organizations. We can also then turn this into, hey, you have heard of an internet cafe. People go to these places and pay money, and that is a problem for many individuals within our community that you're actually wanting to service. So it hurts. It creates a barrier, and because if you take away that money part and focus on, hey, join a community organization, you're doing two things. You're taking away a barrier. You're reaching kids and adults that don't have that money, but now can change their lives without you saying you got to change your life. Then you get them in the place, and then you've got educational things going around them because you have Durham Tech teaching classes. You have other places teaching classes while they're sitting there playing video games. Now you have an incubator situation. And then on the back end, you have, okay, well, you have partnership. I have partnerships with different companies, and now you got internships that are going to happen. And then on the inside of that incubator, you have entrepreneurial opportunities because of the companies that will be working with the business, where you can create something on a 3D printer and then sell that in two different stores that are partnered with the facility. So now you're learning stuff without me telling you. You're tying yourself to the community without me telling you. You're improving yourself. And one of the things that I've always hated is how people talk about, hey, you can take a kid out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the kid. I hate hearing that because, Patrick, I'm sure you always want to go back home and see where you came from. That's in us. That's that hood. That's that neighborhood we've all grown up in. So my idea or my concept is, hey, and this is another thing that I think people can understand, and which others, getting people, the community to back it, is that, instead of me trying to change this individual and make them hate where they came from or forget where they came from, no, let them take what the experiences and that they gain outside of their place, enjoy those experiences and want to take those experiences back. Because then again, I'm not telling them to change where they live,
Right.
but they're changing where they live without me forcing them or telling them, because they're going to be rebellious. So it's a giant concept, and there are pieces that, like I said, I know people can grasp. So that travel, or that tail, I can see that part where people don't understand the gaming part, but they understand, hey, community build part. They understand the incubation part. So I can see the bits and pieces, but it's just a matter of just trying to get people to understand what's going on.
I think I appreciate that thorough answer. And I think for my last question for you, and you may have just scratched the surface on it, but I think it's important to end this way. Why does this matter? Like, why is this concept so important to you?
Weirdly enough, it goes back to the third child mentality that I've always had. And yes, it's cool to be on the field. Yes, it's cool, but it's much more cool and much more fun and a bigger payout to have somebody that may not be there or may not be able to keep up with what you're doing, but you're helping them. That's it. It goes back to that whole mindset that put me on the field. That it's the whole concept that had me audition, do improv, and everything. It's not about me, I guess. And this, which I should put myself in these. No, it's always about somebody else. I try and live that idea that, why should it be about me when it can be about somebody else, and I can still have so much fun living vicariously through them, jumping up and having a great time. That's why when even talking about, I know you gave me the big thanks in the beginning about helping you out on this. No, but it's fun because I think that I can help you be successful in helping with the podcast. So let's do it. Hey, let's have fun. Same thing with we had the young lady come out and she was doing the cheese roll for the first pitch.
Yeah, right.
The only reason she did that was because we sat and chit-chatted for a long time and she was embarrassed. She didn't want to do it. She just wanted to throw out the ball. No, I was so happy that she took up the offer. Hey, take the cheese out there with you. I got Brantley over. I said, Brantley, I said, Rob, come on, let's talk to her. Rob came over and he was like the same thing. Let's roll the cheese out and let's do the pitch. So it's about helping and not thinking about it's about me. It's not about me. Live the life that as if you're the ancillary character that the hero talks about, not the hero. So if you can be the person that inspires the hero, be that person. So I guess it's a long-winded answer, but
it's a podcast. We welcome long-winded answers, and I tell you, it's such great answers, and your soul is just so giving, and I'm just so lucky to have had the opportunity to work with you, and not directly, but I mean, we see each other every day, and you always pop by the window, and I'm downstairs when you're getting your crew all ready to go for the games. And it's a long grind, and it's a long year, and we're not always in the best moods, although we have to kind of put on a show. When the gates open, the lights come on, and the red light comes on for me. So and you've been such a great friend and a great helper when I've kind of pulled you aside to help with some projects on the side, and you always say yes. And there aren't not a lot of people who always start with a yes and just figure out how to get things done. So, my friend, I couldn't be more grateful to call you a friend and work alongside you, and hopefully that will continue for years to come.
Definitely. Patrick, you're my family. So
You're the best, man. All right. So that's going to wrap things up with the Durham Bulls podcast. Jatovi McDuffie. Can check him out at Durham Bulls Athletic Park. And then in the fall, winter, spring at PNC Arena with the Carolina Hurricanes. And check him out online. Check out his e-gaming. Support the project if you can. Jatovi, where can they go to get more info and partner up with you if there are people out there listening?
TogetherWeProject.org.
TogetherWeProject.org. All right. So that's going to wrap things up. Jatovi McDuffie, thanks for being our guest. And sorry, buddy, you're going to have to post-produce this for your own podcast.
It'll be just fine.
All right, my man. Thanks so much for your time, and thank you for tuning in. And once again, subscribe, please, if you can. Apple, Spotify for the audio version, Durham Bulls TV on YouTube for the video version. New podcast drop every week. So for my special guest this week, Jatovi McDuffie, and for our post-production director of this podcast, also Jatovi McDuffie, I'm Patrick Keenis. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the Durham Bulls Podcast.